Some basic concepts of the course, starting with the definition of quantity surveying. Okay, and I mentioned earlier this. Most of the cases, this is like your first job. Okay, your first thing which you, when you go into the field, this is the first thing which you are doing. I did it even in my days. Okay, which was very old. Okay. So what is quantity surveying? Is a process in which you apply mathematics, very basic, very simple. I mentioned it earlier as well. But the importance is you apply this process to calculate what? The cost, okay, which is the most important element of the whole project. In most of the cases, this is like the most important element, okay. In some cases, the second most important element. Okay, like there are some projects in which, for example, if you are doing it for a villa for any private owner, then cost is a big issue, right? Okay, you cannot tell him that I will build for you Burj Khalifa, just give me whatever money I ask for. Okay, he doesn't have that much money. Okay, yeah, but if somebody is actually building Burj Khalifa, then cost is not an issue for him. He wants the building, right? Okay, but you know how many projects of this type you will have where cost is not an issue. Okay, so that's why this process is very important. Okay, the process, because it will give you the cost of the project. Okay, and obviously most of the projects are building projects. Okay, but in civil engineering, we may be building something else as well. We may be constructing something else as well. Like, what are the other things we do construction for? Tell me. Buildings and what else? Bridge. Okay. What else? Dams. And anything else? Roads. And anything else? Nothing? There's nothing in your life. Yes. Everything done. No? Power stations, for example. Okay. Pipelines. Okay. These all come under civil engineering. Okay. You should know that. And in all these cases, this process is involved. Okay. In all these, you cannot say, okay, if I'm not constructing a building, I don't worry about the cost, or I don't need the cost. You need the cost in all of them. Okay. Yeah, but I said cost is sometimes very important, sometimes it is not important or not so important. But can you ignore it? I'll do it without the cost. Cannot happen, right? Okay, so in all the projects, this process is involved, and that project could be a construction project. So there is a building which is not there, and you will make it. Okay, some of the projects can be improvement projects. So the building is already there, okay, or the road is already there. You are making an improvement. So you may have seen highways in which they are putting an extra lane. So it's not a complete new design. It's an improvement project, okay. And sometimes some of the projects are reproduction projects. So something is already there, and you are making something same, okay. So but in all these projects, quantity surveying is involved. Okay, the cost of the project involves three main things. Okay, the cost of the project involves three main things. Okay, two of them you can imagine, right? You have to buy materials. Okay, give me examples of materials you use in construction. What materials I need to buy? Aggregate, cement, yes, sand. What material you need for construction?
Chemical for.
He's my friend. I want to talk to him. Yes. What is this? Aluminum. Yes. Yes. What else? Steel. Yes. Huh? Water. equipment is not there. I'll tell you why it's not there. But you get the idea, right? The cost, material, very important and very obvious. Okay, labor, you hire people, you pay them, right? He mentioned equipment, okay? It's not mentioned, okay? But in most of the cases, it comes under labor, okay? Because why you hire labor? To do the work for you, right? And why we need equipment? Same reason, okay? So there are many projects in which both of them are alternative. Either I will do it manually, hiring people, or I will have an equipment which will do the same work for me, okay? So equipment is part of this cost. Anything which you arrange to do the work for you, okay? And again, nothing is free, right? Keep it in your mind. Nothing in life is free. So that is there, and then the time. Okay. Now why time is a factor? Because time will affect this thing as well. Okay. You hire someone for 1 month, but the project gets delayed, and now this person is working for 2 months. Okay. Or you hired equipment, mixer, excavator, anything for 1 month. Now the project is delayed. You need the equipment for 2 months. So obviously your cost will increase, right? So time has a direct cost as well when you, in terms of labor and equipment, okay? But time has an indirect effect as well, especially for commercial projects, okay? For example, we talk about roads and bridges, right? Okay. So what happens when the road is constructed? What happens? So they start doing construction of a new road or a new bridge. Will it have any effect on you as a driver, as a traveler? What's that? Is the harm, right? Congestion, right? So now that construction is affecting your time, right? That construction is increasing your travel time. Okay? When your travel time is increased, then obviously your time has a value, right? Keep it in mind. Your time has value. That's why I said nothing is there, it's free, because everything has some time. Okay? And time has value. Even if you don't understand it, time has value. Okay? Even your time has value. Okay? So when you come to the class, keep it in mind. Your time has a value. You're sitting in the class, make it count. Okay, but going back to the point, if the construction happens for 6 months, you will have that as the harm or the congestion for 6 months. If somebody can finish it in 4 months, you will have that situation only for 4 months. Okay, so for example, because of that construction, people are getting delayed by 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes doesn't seem like much. Okay, it's not a big value, right? 5 minutes, nothing. Even I was late 5 minutes, right? But those 5 minutes are for thousands of drivers who are passing daily. So 5 into thousands. You can imagine how much time you have lost. Okay, and then you multiply with their time value. Lot of time, right? Another example for building projects. Now let's say you are building a shopping mall. Okay, once the construction is finished, what will happen? When the mall is ready, what will happen? They will open, right? Okay, and when the mall opens, then there will be shops, there will be business, right? There will be business. So if I finish the project early, I can start the business. Right? If I finish the project late, the business will start. Got my point? Okay, so this is also considered as part of the cost of the project. The time, okay, the effect of time is also considered part of the project, the cost of the project. Okay, so these are three main elements. Quantity surveying also involves value engineering. Okay, this is something which now they are looking for in construction projects, that you should get more value. How do we define value engineering? This is the standard definition of value engineering. Okay, so somebody gives you the design, You are not the consultant, you are not the design engineer. Okay, you are doing what? Quantity surveying. Okay, so somebody gives you the drawing, they say, okay, now calculate the quantities for this project. You do the quantities, you go to the site, okay, you calculate material required and so on and so forth. Okay, this is your main job. Okay, but now in modern projects, they don't want you to stop here. They want you to add more value to the project with your experience. Okay, so how do you add more value? So for example, now you have calculated you need 1000 cubic meters of concrete. You calculate the quantity and you found that we need 1000 cubic meters of concrete. Okay, and to have this much concrete, we need this much aggregate, this much sand, this much cement, and so on. Okay, but you know, on some parts of the projects, I can use some other material instead of concrete. Okay, so you go to the client and you tell them, if you use this material instead of concrete, you will have the same result but less cost. Okay, this is called as value engineering. Okay, so value engineering is advising the client or the contractor or the consultant about anything which can save money without compromising the quality, okay, or without compromising the function of the building. Okay, so you cannot say, okay, instead of concrete, use wood for these columns. You know, if you use wood, this building will not stand 3 stories. Okay, so you cannot compromise on quality just because wood is cheap. You cannot say, okay, use wood everywhere. No, you have to look at the quality and you have to look at the function. Okay, so value engineering involves looking for other alternatives which can fulfill the same thing, the same purpose, provide the same quality, but with less cost. Got my point? Okay, and this is also now considered part of the job of a quantity surveyor, or this is also considered part of quantity surveying in the modern projects. Okay. Okay, so the last one was quantity surveying, the job. This is the person who is doing the job. Okay, so what this person is doing on the project, a quantity surveyor, what is he or she doing on the project? Okay, so you will prepare preliminary cost advice and budget estimate. Preliminary means before project is started. Okay, maybe even the design is not complete. Okay, so that's why we are calling it preliminary. So your job starts even before the project. Yeah, and then you participate in feasibility studies. Now, what are feasibility studies? In very simple words, feasibility studies tell you whether you should do this project or not. Okay, yes or no. Feasibility study tell you project yes or project no. Clear? Okay, and can you take the decision without considering the cost? You have to consider the cost, right? Okay, your decision must involve the cost. So that's why the quantity surveyor participates in the feasibility studies. He prepares the bill of quantities. It's like a table. I will explain it later on, but preparing it, and it's part of the course outcomes as well, that you should be able to prepare and explain the bill of quantities. Okay, but you have seen the bill, right? When you do shopping or you go to a restaurant, you have the bill, right? And that bill is like a table. That's sort of a table for construction projects. Okay. A quantity surveyor must examine the tenders and prices and reports is finding to the architect or the client or the consultant. Architect means the consultant, the person who is designing the project. Okay, so this is where the value engineering will come. So you tell him, okay, if you go with this material, this is the price, this will be the total budget, and so on and so forth. If you go with this material, this will be the price, this will be the total project, and so on and so forth. Okay, tender is I will explain it later on, but tender is something which you give to the contractor who is coming for the project. Okay, tender is a document which you give to the contractor who is coming for the project. So you are the consultant or you are the owner, okay, client, and you want to hire a contractor. You have to prepare a tender document, okay, and that tender document must have the cost and price and everything. Okay, monitor and control costs by checking progress on the site. So you hire a contractor and he says, I will finish this project in 6 months and I will take 60,000 BD from. Okay, 6 months, 60,000 BD. Okay. Now you can say, okay, every month, so 6 months, 60,000 BD. How much per month? 10,000, right? 10,000. So should I pay 10,000 every month? Should I pay him 10,000 every month like a salary? No, why not? No problem. Big money. Yes. Should I?
You can.
You can. It's your money, whatever you want. Right? Yes. Anybody says no? Should I pay him like salary? Okay, 10, take 10,000 BT every month, and that's it. Okay. After 6 months, 60,000 BT will be finished, and that's it.
Maybe no, maybe he didn't end his work in 6 months, so you don't need to give him 6 months.
So yes, so your payment is based upon his work, right? Your payment is based upon his work, and construction work does not continue in the same amount every month. Okay, it's not like you can break it into equal intervals. Okay, so every month I will just spend 10,000 BD. No, maybe in the first month the job you are doing only requires 5,000 BD. In the second month, the work you are doing needs 20,000 BD. Get my point? Okay, so your payment is based upon his progress. Okay, if he makes more progress, maybe he will finish the whole job in 5 months. But now you tell me no. Because he said you will finish in 6 months, I will not pay you. No. He did something good, right? He finished early. He should get his payment early, right? And the other way around. You come at the end of 6 months and he is not yet finished. Did you pay him the full amount? No. Okay, so your payment depends upon his progress. A quantity surveyor must be able to go on the site and he must be able to calculate the progress of the work. Okay, you have done surveying, right? So there are different types of surveys which we do. Anybody remembers types of surveys? No. Type of surveys. Huh? Sorry? Earth surveyor and what else? Geometric. Okay. Not the answer I was expecting, but no problem because I don't remember as well. But anyways, forget it. Nobody remembers. I don't remember. Okay. So, but the point is, the quantity surveyor should be able to go on the site, do the survey to find out the exact quantity of work which he has done. Got my point? Okay. So the contractor may ask, give me 15,000 BD. Okay. So you go to the site and you calculate how much concrete he has poured, how many columns he has constructed, how much land he has excavated. So quantity surveyor, this is why they call him the surveyor, comes from survey. Okay, so he has to actually go to the site and do the survey. Okay, clear? And yes, he will use the equipments. Okay, anybody remembers the equipments? What equipments we use for survey? Now he's busy on the phone. Yes, what equipments we use for survey? What instruments? What is this? Huh? Full station. Very good. I should record these things and give it to Dr. Nizar. You already know some of these things. That's why his blood pressure is always high. Total station. And what else? There was something with the rod, right? Yes. Huh? What? Huh? Rod. Staff. Staff. Level. Huh? Normal? Normal tape. Very good. Okay. He is my dear friend. He can say whatever he wants. Okay. He is allowed. Okay. No, serious. I am happy when he says something. Keep it going. Okay. But he has to use those equipments on the side during construction to know the quantity of work which has been done. Okay. So he must know surveying. Simple as that. He must know surveying, which you don't know, right? Okay. So you can become teachers and then you can forget. No problem. Okay. But you want to go to the side, you have to remember it. Okay. What? Yeah. So I mentioned tender is what? What is tender? I mentioned it earlier, right? It was the third point. What is tender? Yes. I was asking about surveying. Huh? Who gives the tender and to who? To contractor. Yeah. From client or consultant to the contractor. Okay. So you have to tell him how much will be the cost, how much quantity you need, and so on. So a quantity surveyor must know how to prepare these documents. Okay. Yeah, so he can then negotiate with in some cases the client may ask you, okay, you know so much about the cost and the price and so on, you negotiate with the client, with the contractor. Okay, the contractor is asking for 80,000 BD, you can, talk with him and you can tell him that this work can be done in 70,000, you get the point, right? Okay. We used to have a friend like this. Whenever we go and buy something, we used to take him with us and he will go in the shop, he will just, select what we want and then we will tell him, shoot, and he will do all the negotiation, okay? Anyways. Yeah. When the work is finished, the quantity surveyor has to approve the quantities, final quantities. Okay, so he was doing it for the progress and this is for the final, finish. Okay, so you always keep some percentage of the total price with you until you get the approval. Okay, so the contractor will not get the final payment until the approval of the final quantities. Okay, so again he will do a sort of a survey after the project is finished. He does a sort of a survey which is called as built survey. This one I remember. I don't know why. Okay, but this is called as built survey. The quantity surveyor, after the project is finished, goes to the site. He does as built survey and he will tell the client he has used this much quantity, this quantity of material, this much quantity of labor, this much floor area, and so on. Okay, and the contractor will get the payment according to that. Okay, another thing, again for modern projects, in modern construction projects, another important thing is risk management. Okay, so risk means something which can go negative, right? Something which can go bad. Okay, so you are taking this course and the risk is that you can get an F. See how natural. Okay, so this is a risk, right? Okay, so what do we do about it? We have to, there's a chance you can get an F, right? So what do we do about it? Study, right? So you study to avoid that, but this is called risk management. You know that the end of this thing can go bad in this way. Okay, so what do? I plan and work in advance. I make a plan in advance to avoid this thing. Okay, so in construction projects, you may have financial risks. Okay, for example, oil prices, right? Oil prices are not completely in your hand. Sometimes it can go very high, sometimes goes low as well. I don't know when, but it can. It's not in your hand, right? Okay. In countries like Pakistan, there's a lot of variation in the prices because of the taxes. The government may think at one particular year that this year we are going to double the tax. Okay. Something like this happened when the VAT was introduced. Okay. But there they have better control. When Pakistan, okay, tax increased, I will increase the cost for everything. Okay, the government increases the tax on gas, and the person who is selling bread will increase the price of the bread. The bread is not coming from gas, right? Okay, but this happens. So now imagine that prices are doubled. Okay, it has happened. Okay, so for example, 1 ton of steel was costing 60,000 when the project started, and during the project it can go from 60,000 to 100,000. So more than 50% increase. It has happened in Pakistan and many other countries. Okay, oil prices I already gave you the example. Okay, so these are what? These are financial risks. When the prices will go up, your cost will change, right? Okay, so you look into these factors and you try to avoid them, plan for them, maybe purchase the material in bulk at the start of the project and you keep it somewhere so you don't have to buy it again and again. Okay, and so on. So this is called as risk management. Risk management involves how many things? Identify, advise, and yeah, two. They are mentioned two, but it can involve other steps as well. But mainly 2 steps. Risk management has 2 steps. First of all, you have to identify what can go wrong. Okay, find out in your project in terms of cost. We are talking about quantity surveyor, right? So we are not talking about other things. We are talking about cost, quantities. Okay. So what can go wrong in your project in terms of budget? Okay, and then you advise the client how to avoid it. Okay, this is called as risk management. Okay, and because you know about the prices and the cost and the material and so on and so forth, this becomes your responsibility as well, and they value this thing now in the modern projects. Okay. The quantity surveyor, I already mentioned some of these things in the previous slide. You should be able to quantify and measure the work, the construction work, and I mentioned the last lecture as well. All types of things in construction are not measured in the same way. Okay, so for example, paint. Okay, I can measure the quantity of paint in what units? How do you measure paint? Huh? Meter square, right? Area. Okay, and how do we measure labor? Labor charges. How do we measure it? Per hour, right? It could be per hour, it could be per day. Okay, and what about the chairs? Number, right? Okay, so a quantity surveyor must know how everything is measured, and he should be able to measure in those units. Okay, some things are measured in volume, some things are measured in area, some things are measured in number, some things are measured per unit time, and so on. Okay, a quantity surveyor must know about these things. Okay, he should know he should have the knowledge of prices. Obviously, he is making the cost, right? So he should know the prices. And I told you the major things which are involved in the construction project: labor, equipment, materials. He should be very careful and accurate about the calculations which he is doing. Okay, so when you will go into the calculations, you will see that even, for example, now you see this. Okay, this is space as millimeters, some millimeters. It's not even half a meter. But even this much space we have to calculate accurately. Okay, you cannot say, okay, I will just take it as one big wall. No, this part of the column must be taken. So you have to be very accurate. Okay. Now you see these windows, right? Okay. And you see the panel on the side of the window. Okay. So this panel is again very small, but again the calculations are done very accurately even for small things. Okay. He should have the knowledge of building materials and construction techniques. Okay. So for one job you can use different materials. I already gave the example. You may use concrete or wood or steel for the same thing. Okay. Now you have mentioned, somebody mentioned bridges, right? Or I mentioned pipelines. Okay. You have seen the pipes in your house, right? Are they made of concrete? No. Okay. If you go to an oil pipeline, you may see pipelines which are made up of a different material. Okay. And the sewerage line, they are made up of different material. Okay. So quantity surveyor must have the knowledge of different materials which can be used for the same job, and he should have the knowledge of construction technique as well. Technique means method. Technique means what? Method. Okay. So for example, I have to do excavation. Okay. I have to dig a hole. Okay. There are different methods to do it. I can hire 2 people and they can do it. They can do the excavation in 1 day maybe. Okay. What is the other thing I can do? I can hire an excavator. Okay. And that excavator can do the job for me in 1 hour maybe. Okay. So again, same job, 2 different methods. Okay. So a surveyor must have knowledge about these things as well. Now, are the techniques always same? Are we always using the same materials? Okay. And what about equipments? Same equipments? Every project? No. Are there changes happening in the material and the equipment? Are there changes happening in the material and the equipment? They are, right? Okay. So your knowledge from 5 years ago may not apply now. You get my point? Because now maybe somebody invented a new material. Okay. Or the excavator they were using 5 years ago, now it has changed because the technology is changing, right? Okay. So you have to keep yourself updated. So when we say you should have the knowledge of these things, it doesn't mean I will read a book and I will memorize it and I'm done. No. When things change, you have to update yourself. Okay. Yeah. How can you calculate the cost if you cannot read the drawings? Okay. So you should know what is shown in the drawings. You have already taken that course, right? For drawings. Which one was that? AutoCAD. Okay. You should have the knowledge of law of contract. Okay. Law of contract means when you give the contract, when parties sign the contract, there are some clauses. You have to do this and I will do this, right? Okay. There are some duties of the client and there are some duties of the contractor. Okay. So a quantity surveyor must know about them because he is telling the client to give the contractor, right? Okay. So he must know about the laws. Okay. And these laws are very common. Okay. You have seen the rent agreements, right? The rent or the lease agreements for your apartments and houses. Okay. Most of the things are common. If you read 2 or 3 agreements, you know these are common. So there are some common laws which are followed in all projects. Okay. He should have the negotiation skills I mentioned. He is your friend who is negotiating with the client. Why are you asking for 80,000? Do it into 75,000. You will say no, I am doing this. You tell him no, why are you doing this? You do this and so on. Okay. So he should have the negotiation skills. I don't have it. Very good. He should have the knowledge of standard methods of measurement. Okay, standard methods of measurement. Okay, and in GCC and many of the countries around the world, the standard which you are using are called as NRM. NRM stands for New Rules of Measurement. Okay, NRM stands for what? New Rules of Measurement. Okay, and who gave us this? RICS. Okay, RICS stands for Royal Institute of Cost Estimation. Okay, Royal Institute of Cost Estimation. Okay, so it's a body, it's an organization, and they have prepared standards for quantity surveying. Simple. Okay, so RICS is an organization, and new rules of measurement is our standard we use for quantity survey. Okay, it's like a manual. Okay, as far as my knowledge is concerned, there are three editions. The last one is the third one. So we have NRM3 available. Okay, but in most of the books they are only including up to the second edition. Okay, so the books which I will upload, when I will upload, I don't know, but whenever I do, those books are using NRM2. Okay, the second edition. Okay, so now we come towards the documents which we go through as quantity surveyors. Okay, so the first one is the contract document between the client and the contractor. Okay, sometimes the client signs it himself, or sometimes it is done by the consultant. The client will hire the consultant will hire the contractor, because he has knowledge and so on. Okay, because most of the cases the client is a common person. He could be a doctor, like not my type of doctor, like the medical doctor, the useful one. Okay, so he doesn't know anything about construction. So, okay, he may hire someone to do the legal documents and everything. Like you hire the agent, right? Like you have the agent. So it can be consultant and the agent. Okay. So in the contract document, they will mention how much work you have to done, how much work the contractor has to do, and how much you will pay him, and the time and the quality and everything. Okay. So these things are mentioned. Okay. They mention the total price, not the whole, how much for one floor and how much for the second floor, how much for the third floor. No, total. Okay. And, so they mention the totals. In contract document, we mention the rights and obligations. Okay. Rights means the things which you can ask from the other parties. Obligation is thing you have to do for the other party. Okay. So for example, we have the client. Okay. What is the responsibility of the client? What he has to do? The client is supposed to do what? What is his responsibility? Pay. What else? Specify what he wants. He cannot come after 6 months and say, no, I wanted 3 floors. Now you only made 2 floors. No. The client has to specify what he wants, demand, and he has to pay as well. Right? Okay. So this is what he has to do. What he should get in return. What is his right? What you are saying is obligation of the client. This is the responsibility of the client. What is the right of the client? What he should expect from the other party. The final product, right? The final structure. Quality of the work. The time. The project should finish within time, and so on. Okay? So you get the idea, right? What are the rights and what are the obligations? The contract document must include the drawings. Okay? The drawing, the complete design should be part of the document. Okay? So we don't mention everything in the document in the contract itself, but the drawings are attached. Okay? The drawings are attached with the agreement. Okay? And the specification as well. Okay? There the difference, I will show you later on with an example as well. The difference between specification and drawing show you measurements. Okay? How much? Drawing show you how much. Okay? Specification tell you what? Quality. Drawings tell you quantity. Specification tells you quality. Okay? So drawing can tell you the size of the wall. Specification will tell you what type of block you are going to use in the wall. What my point? Okay, so these things are there. Okay, and then you have the bill of quantity as well. Okay, so there the bill of quantity attached with the drawing as well. Okay, so the drawings, you can see in the specification, you see a lot of notes here, right? These notes are telling you what you are supposed to do in the project, and the last one is also specification. Okay, so this is drawing and specification both. This is only specification, not drawing. Okay, and this is only drawing. Okay, okay, we stop here, and we will continue next time. So tomorrow 11 o'clock. Okay, building S1B, Al Salam Hall. Okay, when you get there, I will float a sheet, but if I forget, you will remind me. Okay.